Memphis. Welcome to the finals here at Grand Prix Memphis. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Reed Duke. Thank you so much for coming along. It's been a nice, long tournament, but we've got 2 decks left, 2 players left. Tyler Schroeder playing Red Green Monsters, Aaron Barich playing Sultai Constrictor. Give us a snapshot on the matchup here, Reed.
Well, these are both, as we mentioned, decks that are focused on attacking, focused on getting a resilient threat and just jamming it into an unsuspecting opponent. I think it's going to be a lot of threats attacking past each other. These 2 decks are not too great at playing defense. Schroeder with a couple well-placed removal spells for the early game, and Barich with a couple of Vraska's Contempts, but mostly it's going to be about who can get a fast start, who can get a resilient threat attacking, and who can get the opponent down to 0 faster.
So we see a Merfolk Branchwalker early in the game here for Tyler Schroeder. He actually thinks about that decision for a little while, decides to keep it on top, the Abrade there.
Yeah, now I can tell you from older versions of Black-Green or Black-Green X Winding Constrictor decks, Abrade is really not a card you want to play against because these decks are, the strength of their draw is so dependent on whether or not they can stick one of their 2-drop creatures like a Winding Constrictor, like a Glint Sleeve Siphoner, and a removal spell that's cheap and particularly one that can deal 3 damage makes it pretty hard for that to happen.
Interesting tempo opportunity here from Barich. He knows about the Abrade, does not necessarily have to run anything into it, could just do nothing for the turn. No, he's going to get his value anyway. Here's Jadelight Ranger. Now there's 2 Explore triggers on the stack. Tyler's going to be safe and just kill the Ranger here, but he still gets to resolve these Explore triggers. And that's going to let him manipulate the top of his library, and in this case, even draw a land.
Yeah, so that was pretty nice for Barich. He knew a removal spell was coming, so he played his creature that was going to get guaranteed value in the Jadelight Ranger.
Speaking of.
Yep, here we go.
Not a Jadelight Ranger now for Tyler Schroeder. And he hits right away with Merfolk Branchwalker, but is that really what he wants at this stage of the game? He's deciding.
No, it's not. And I think you should be more inclined to put the first card from Jadelight Ranger into the graveyard because you get a lot of value just being able to see 2 cards instead of 1. In this case, Tyler is able to put a land directly in his hand, get a little card advantage there, and free up, potentially an exciting next draw step from a fresh card from his library.
All right, speaking of exciting cards, there's our old friend Bristling Hydra. Of course, bannings have affected a lot of Bristling Hydra's close friends, and we don't see the Teamer energy decks that were once so ubiquitous. But Bristling Hydra apparently good enough in still somewhat of an energy shell to just be a good, hard-to-deal-with threat on its own.
Yeah, the big difference now with Bristling Hydra is you're not often finding yourself in a situation where you have, 4 or 6 energy banked by the time you're casting it. It's more like you get a one-shot for the most part when you cast Bristling Hydra on turn 4. You have 1 activation to protect it. Maybe over the course of a few more turns you can develop a little more energy. But here, Barich actually assembling that nice 1-2 punch of back-to-back Hydras, now 7 energy, 2 activations. The Glorybringer is not going to be able to take care of either of these.
How about double Glorybringer versus double Bristling Hydra? Welcome to the finals here in Memphis.
This is what I'm talking about, Marshall. These 2 decks don't want to play defense. They just want to attack past each other and see who can get the opponent down to 0. So far, it looks like Tyler Schroeder is ahead in this race.
Yeah, the flying on Glorybringer just making this race heavily in his favor as Aaron Barich has no way right now to interact. He's going to need to kill either Tyler or one of these Glorybringers, or he's dead on the attack next turn.
Yep, nothing in his deck that's going to be blocking these Glorybringers, so it's pretty much Vraska's Contempt, or as you mentioned, a way to kill the opponent.
Right. We've got dual decks, Hydras versus Dragons in the feature match area here. I know which side of the fight I like there.
Yeah.
It's Hydras. Although I don't think it's going to work out for Aaron this time, is it?
What kind of Hydra doesn't have reach?
Seriously. All those heads. All right. A little bit more energy thanks to a Siphoner. A Hash-Up Oasis still doesn't give him lethal. He, he is just going to need to find something. The problem is that the players have... All right, we're going to see a chump block here, effectively a chump block here from Schroeder. You got to figure that if Aaron had something, he'd be using it. Let's see, though. Tyler untaps. He's got 2 lethal dragons in the air, ready to attack, ready to take down game number 1. Looks like he's got some plays ahead of it, though. Oh, and look at this. Aaron does have the answer in his hand. Did you see Vraska's Contempt in his hand?
Yeah, I did. And Schroeder with potentially a costly misstep here. There are some combinations of cards, including multiple Blossoming Defense, where maybe Barrich could have killed Tyler if he didn't block. But the flip side of that is that Barrich can kill at most one of the Glory Bringers. So if Schroeder had left a 3/2 Jade Light Ranger and paired it with either of his Earthshaker or Resilient Kenras, he could present 3 lethal attackers, exert one of the Glory Bringers to kill Glint Sleeve Siphoner, and be able to win through a...
Uh-oh.
Well, actually, with a 2 life, it might change the equation, but he could deal at least 9 with just 1 Kenra.
So here we go. Glory Bringer is going to get eaten. It looks like no exert from Tyler as well. So Aaron Barrich is still very much alive here. He goes up to 10, takes 4 back down to 6.
And now it's Tyler who has to be careful with his own life total.
Seriously. Also, we've seen insta-wins from Aaron Barrich thanks to kind of the signature card for his deck, Hadana's Climb. Ooh, but that was a pretty good turn there for Tyler, all told. He plays a Rekindling Phoenix.
Yeah, so re-upping on 4-power Flyer, again, presenting lethal for next turn. Earthshaker Kenra can block the bigger of the 2 Hydras. Let's see what Barrich can put together. He's got 2 draw steps.
Yeah, he cashed in a couple of energy thanks to the Glint Sleeve Siphoner. Does he have what it takes to get the job done?
I don't think he found Hadana's Climb. Even forcing a chump block with the Phoenix is not good enough because the ability of the Rekindling Phoenix brings it back with haste.
That's right. Yeah, and it's desperation time. Fetid Pools is going to get cycled for Aaron Barrich. Can he find any way out of this? It was a nice swing in his direction last turn, but it may still have come up short for him. Well, he's going to rumble with the 2 Hydras. Tyler's going to think back to the deck list that he would have had a chance to look at.
So add a counter plus triple Blossoming Defense, still not enough. For the small Hydra, at least.
Yeah, this is not looking good for Aaron Barrich in game number 1.
Tyler just needs to remember his trigger or eternalize the Kenra. But yeah, I think this is over in favor of the Red-Green Monsters deck.
Yep, and that's going to do it. Tyler Schroeder wins game number 1, and boy, that did not disappoint. Massive monsters on both sides of the battlefield. We've definitely got one of those matches where it's going to be big creatures crashing into each other. Not a lot of counter spells floating around in these 75. I think just a few negates over on Aaron's side. So, show me what you got is the type of Magic that we're going to be playing here, Reed. Thanks so much for joining us here in Memphis. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Reed Duke. We're in the finals. It's standard. Post-bannings with Rivals of Ixalan. It's actually been quite a while since we've had standard as the focal point of the tournament. We have had a few. We had a team tournament that featured standard, that kind of stuff, but not where the players simply brought a standard deck and went to battle.
one of the crucial aspects of a matchup like this where the players are much better at attacking than defending is, of course, who gets to go first. We had a really close first game there where Tyler Schroeder was able to win, in part because he got to go first. But now it's Aaron's turn. He's going to get to take the first turn, hopefully get off to a good start. If he's talked about in our interviews earlier in the day how nicely his deck functions in those games where he's able to untap with Winding Constrictor. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things I'll be looking for is turn 2 if Aaron can play a Constrictor, and likewise if Tyler can kill it.
Yeah, super explosive starts available if you get to untap with that Constrictor. If not, it's still a very solid deck. It's interesting because it's kind of like flipped on its side. The deck is actually so good that it can win without the Constrictor, and they feel like they're kind of free-rolling it, right? Like if they get to keep the Constrictor, it's like, oh, this is easy. Mm-hmm. I can do this real easy. Because they actually do assume that it will be killed, but still they keep it in the deck because presenting a threat that must be killed, basically the one-turn window before that player gets to untap, absolutely still worth it.
So Aaron Barich with the ability to go up to 4 Fatal Push and 4 Vraska's Contempts if you would like. You got to imagine the Contempts are coming in just as his best way to combat those big flyers. Fatal Push a little more questionable as, at least in my opinion, it's not those little creatures that are really doing the damage out of Tyler's deck. They're more of placeholders and just things to spend his mana on early and smooth his draw. Mm-hmm. One card that I'll be very curious to see if Aaron decides to bring in is Cartouche of Ambition. It would have been pretty good in the close race situation of Game 1. It's great on Bristling Hydra, but in general, sometimes the damage comes in such big chunks that a little bit of life gain might not be enough. We'll see. Mm-hmm. Here on Tyler Schroeder's side, I don't think much is going to change. I would be looking for Chandra Torch of Defiance to come in, since if you can actually get a clean hit on one of those green-black creatures, that deck doesn't have much haste, doesn't have much reach to deal the last point of damage against the Chandra. So I think that's a pretty effective card in the matchup. Otherwise, there's some fringe options: Struggle, Survive, Blossoming Defense, Death Gorge Scavengers. These cards could come in, but they're not going to be game changers.
I like seeing those Thrashing Brontodons down in the sideboard.
Yeah, for both players, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the key. If you registered Thrashing Brontodon, you were going to do well this weekend.
The Thrashing Brontodon rewards those who show faith. And these two have had quite a run over the course of the weekend. It has not been easy. We've seen them both in the feature match area various times throughout the tournament. But one of these gentlemen is going to walk away with $10,000 and the trophy. They're going to come over and have a chat with us as well after the tournament. And it's been fun. It's really actually been really fun watching them play as well, because they both brought some really cool lists to the table.
Yeah, Aaron definitely my pick for the coolest, most innovative deck here. Hadana's Climb has just been really doing work for him, and I think I speak for a lot of players when I say that that's not a card that I would have picked as a really strong constructed card.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. One of the times when we had him in, when you and I were in the booth, Reed, we got to see him simply play the card, and it prompted a concession from the opponent because it was lethal.
Yeah, an opponent with an active Scarab God, nonetheless, just
That's
completely out-muscling what a lot of us thought was the king trump card in all of Standard.
That's right. Yeah, Aaron told us in a winner's interview that we did with him earlier that there's times, by the way, both players going to 6 here, that, there's times when he can get up to 6 mana and just have it be a win con. Just, whoop, gotcha. Also difficult to interact with, given that it's an enchantment. So if the game does stall out a little bit, that is the kind of thing that can just break that wide open. Take a look at our prize payouts here. $10,000 for first, as well as 8 pro points.
Not too shabby for either of these players.
No, $5,000 is going to go to second place finisher. If you make the semifinals, you're going to get $2,500 minimum, and the top 8 gets $1,500, and then we pay out based on match points further down. Also, of course, important to these players in the top 8 is the Pro Tour qualification that comes along with making the top 8. So congrats to them. They've locked that up a little while ago. But now eyes on the prize. It's time to try to get that 10,000 bucks in the trophy. Looks like both of them have kept their 6.
Bottom for Aaron, top for Tyler.
Uh-oh. There it is. Whining Constrictor facing down just a mountain. Does Tyler have an answer for it? He needs it now.
He did say his deck was very abrasive.
There it is. The Abrade from Tyler Schroeder right on time. And look at that. It would have been a Walking Ballista as the follow-up, and you know how out of hand that thing can get with a Constrictor on the table. All right. Magma Spray. Oh, and it looks like Aaron's going to go ahead and save it using Blossoming Defense. The standard play is just to remove the counters to do damage to the opponent, but Blossoming Defense effectively countering a Magma Spray there. It looks like Aaron really values keeping this Walking Ballista around, even though it's just a 1-1 right now.
So, yeah, I think Aaron's going to let this go in the hopes maybe that the Branch Walker stays as a 2-1, because he does have Cartouche of Ambition, that sort of fringe sideboard card that he did decide to bring in.
Maybe part of the reason why he used Blossoming Defense, he needs a body for it, although it looks like he's drawn Servant of the Conduit here. Missing his land drop. This is a mulligan for Aaron as well as for Tyler, so not uncommon to see a missed land drop or two when you're on a mulligan.
Yeah, so Aaron really expended a lot of his resources pretty quickly there, especially with the Blossoming Defense, the double spell on turn 3. And he's still got a couple good weapons. He's ready with Vraska's Contempt as one of his last 2 cards in hand.
Ooh, he needed a land and he found one, but it wasn't quite the right one for him. And that Rekindling Phoenix looks like it's going to take a bite out of crime here.
Well, because of the Servant of the Conduit, he does have the option to spend an energy if he'd like to get it done right away.
And he does. And he's not even going to let Tyler untap this time. This way he gets to attack for 1 with the Walking Ballista, play his land post-combat. So Servant of the Conduit doing good work for Aaron there. Saving him 4 life. And there's Jadelight Ranger. Boy, Branchwalker and Jadelight Ranger can do seriously nice work in the middle to early part of this game. But you see Aaron feeling compelled to use the Ballista to make sure that the Jadelight Ranger doesn't grow any bigger.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier in the broadcast, Marshall, that you can't wait and see what happens with the Explorer, because once a non-creature card gets revealed, that's it. There's a counter on the creature. It's too late to respond. Aaron Barrich playing it safe here by killing the Jadelight Ranger before the Explorers go off.
Yeah, he gave up a Walking Ballista to do it, and of course the Explorers still happen. And now we're kind of down to 2 little green 2-drops. Who's going to be the first one to add something major to the table?
Yeah, but I will point out something that went well for Tyler is he was able to mill with his Explorer a Resilient Kenra. So if he does find himself a little bit flooded, 6 mana with nothing to do with it, that's going to be a big play.
Yes, there is in fact land number 6. He's got Pia Nalar in hand. But you got to figure getting back the Resilient Kenra is better. Well, it looks like he may have 2 plays this turn. In fact, he's just going to cast a Resilient Kenra. Pump it. Attack.
Yeah, that Cartouche of Ambition not lining up well for Aaron Barrich. There's both hasn't been a 1 toughness creature to pick off, and Aaron hasn't drawn one of his larger creatures like Bristling Hydra.
Right, he just has the Servant of the Conduit. Not the best target for it in the deck, and we could see this one start to slip away from Aaron Barrich here. That was a big turn.
Big draw step. Hydra or Verdurous Gearhulk would make this game very different.
Let's see if Aaron can find something huge to cast. He's got to be feeling the pressure now. Big board state for Tyler. Aaron's in the tank.
So you got to figure he's playing the Cartouche of Ambition this turn one way or another, probably picking off Thopter token. Then he's contending with 7 power on the board plus, 4 more from Resilient Kenra's ability. That means he's got to either gain some life this turn or be ready with a block. It's a bad spot to be in.
Yeah, this is not where Aaron Barrich wanted to find himself, especially given the composition of his deck list. Much better when he is the one on the front foot, can start piling on counters and turning his creature sideways, forcing his opponent to react to him. Aaron's doing the math on what it looks like if he's going to play the cartouche.
His best bet here is probably to play the cartouche and attack and hope that Tyler decides to play around. Well, it could be Fatal Push or it could be Blossoming Defense. But in either case, if Tyler doesn't block, then Aaron can go up to 14, survive an attack, and then maybe something goes well from there, a nice draw step or transforming the Hadana's Climb somehow. But I think if Aaron has to lose his creature in combat, either by blocking or by Tyler double blocking when he attacks, it's probably going to be game over.
All right, well, Cartouche of Ambition takes out the Thopter and turns the Servant into a 3/3 with lifelink. He's going to pass the turn back.
Yeah. Potential spot for a bluff attack, but it would be very risky.
Tyler says, how many cards you got? Just the one for Aaron Barrich. And we can see this one falling apart here. Tyler Schroeder is going to use Eternalize from Resilient Kenra. And he's going to pile on a ton of damage here, Reed.
Yeah, so he'll probably pump up one of his 2/2 creatures and attack with that and the Merfolk Branchwalker. He doesn't want to attack with a creature that Barrich can profitably block because the lifelink would make a big difference there.
Yeah, he could just gain 3 life kind of for free while taking out something on the battlefield. So he did. He pumped up Pia Nalar, and he says, I'm going to attack with these. So worst case scenario, a trade here from Tyler's perspective. And Aaron really is in a bad spot, right? I mean, he doesn't really want to trade, but he also doesn't really want to take this much damage.
This is a spot where he really has to ask himself what he's hoping for. I think the answer is Verdurous Gearhulk. He's got to keep his lifelink creature in play, peel something.
Oh, he found a Hydra, but is it a turn late?
So if he plays his creature, blocks the 2 largest guys, then 4 damage would get through, but he'd gain 3. So he's not dead on the board.
He would be at 1?
He would be at 1, but he would get to trade off 2 creatures.
Wow, this is very close for Aaron Barrich, but not in the good way. He is close to death. Tyler Schroeder's deck has just been unrelenting down the stretch and in the top 8. Every single time we've seen him, it's just been threat after threat after threat.
Here we go. Tapping 2 mana if it's a removal spell or an Earthshaker Kenra.
It's going to be game. And it is Earthshaker Kenra for Tyler Schroeder. Says that thing can't block. Come at me. He attacks with everything. And this looks like a GP winning attack step here, Reed.
Block the 2 biggest, gain 3 up to 5, take 6. I don't see any way out of it.
He's looking at Hadana's Climb, the card that got him here, and he extends the hand. Tyler Schroeder is your champion at GP Memphis, head in hand, and he says, yep, boys, just like I drew it up. And he's going to take home the trophy and the $10,000. A fantastic finish for Tyler. Congratulations to him. And, of course, congratulations to Aaron Barrich on an equally strong finish, making it all the way to the finals. Just couldn't quite get there at the end, Reed.
Yeah, that was great, Marshall. So one thing to point out, no mono red